Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville, Chrysler, Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and By-Rite Auto. Tom Fleming, Ryan Higginbotham, Jason Simpson live here in studio. Josh, once again, joining us live via satellite. We're not going to beat around the bush. We're not going to take our time. Josh, are you with us? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, we got you.
Good morning.
We know that it's your turn to give the hot take of the week, and it's going to be a hot take and a fast take because you have a tea time. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, I've got it's our golf course against a different golf course, Ryder Cup style, over 2 days. They took the top 12 from each country club, and so we're playing against each other, and that starts at 9 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock your time. So this is going to be a hot take. It's going to be a quick hot take, but we're going to it's something that needs to be talked about, but nobody's talked about. The Cincinnati Reds, after what they've done this season and really how they've handled the last 23 years under Bob Castellini, need to trade superstar 23-year-old Elly De La Cruz before they tank his trade value. That is the hot take of the week. Here's why
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say I absolutely think that you believe that, and I agree with it. Maybe that's why I think
Well, let's hear his argument, Tom.
Okay, go ahead.
Come on.
So here's why they need to, okay? Back in 2021, the San Diego the Washington Nationals traded 23-year-old superstar outfielder Juan Soto to the San Diego Padres for guys like Jackson Merrill, C.J. Abrams, who's their starting shortstop now, and James Wood, who is on pace for about 35 home runs this year. He's a superstar outfielder. They got multiple top 10 prospects, multiple starters in their organization, and that was with only 2.5 years left of control with Juan Soto. The Cincinnati Reds have 4.5 years left of Elly De La Cruz. Now, Elly doesn't have the same amount of WAR, which is wins above replacement, that Juan Soto had at the same time, but Elly also plays a more premium position. He steals bases at a better clip, and he's just more of an electric player at this point in time with 2 extra years of control. The Cincinnati Reds have failed Elly De La Cruz by hiring Terry Francona, who we were all his former hitting coach that was with him in Cleveland, and Chris Valaika, who was also a former Cincinnati Red. And what Chris Valaika and Terry Francona's strategy has been over this year, and it was their years in Cleveland, was play small ball. Get the runners on, get the runners over, get the runners in. They've tamed Elly back, along with T.J. Friedel and other guys back on the base paths. Elly De La Cruz had almost 70 steals last year, if he didn't have 70. This year, they've cut that in half. Now, he is battling a little bit of a quad injury, but they've taken away all his aggressiveness. For all the high K rate that Elly De La Cruz has, last night in the most important series that they've had all year, they had bases loaded with nobody out, trailing the New York Mets by 1 run in the 9th inning. They scored 0 runs, and Elly De La Cruz struck out on 3 pitches looking at all 3 pitches. The Cincinnati Reds have wasted Elly De La Cruz, just like they wasted Ken Griffey Jr., just like they wasted Jay Bruce, just like they wasted Joey Votto. The Reds aren't going to pay Joey Votto-like contract to Elly De La Cruz, although they should, which was about 10 years and $250 million. So instead of just wasting Elly De La Cruz and robbing MLB fans of what Elly De La Cruz brings to the MLB and the fandom and the stardom and everything like that, the Cincinnati Reds just need to rip the Band-Aid off, try to get as much as they possibly can before they ruin the trade values like they did with Aroldis Chapman and Todd Frazier and other guys. So the Cincinnati Reds this offseason need to trade Elly De La Cruz.
Oh, my. Now, here's the thing. I'm going on the side of Tom here. In your fandom and in your heart, you don't want the Reds to do this, but I think 1,000% you believe this. Because the arguments you gave just make too much sense. to not do it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's exactly why it won't happen, because they are the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think?
Sure. I believe, Josh, this is something that me and my dad talk about all the time. The Cincinnati Reds are the best 4A baseball team in MLB history. They will constantly develop players just to end up trading them away or ruining their primes. I remember back about 13 years ago when Brandon Phillips was the best player on the team. And where did that go? They traded him off and everything. I do believe they should do that, but to Jason's point, they are the Cincinnati Reds. Elly De La Cruz will probably be a Cincinnati Red for another 5 to 6 years. They're going to ruin his prime. He's going to average probably 30 to 40 steals a year because they won't let him be aggressive. But, overall, I think you do believe this, Josh, but I don't think it would ever happen.
So you all three believe that I believe that the Reds need to trade Elly, right?
Yep, 100%.
Well, that's why I'm in sales, fellas, because I don't think the Cincinnati Reds should trade Elly De La Cruz.
Say what?
Trade him for Paul Skeens. Trade him to the Pirates for Paul Skeens.
Here's why, and I said it earlier. You have 4.5 years of control left of Elly De La Cruz. He plays a premium position. He has speed unlike anybody in baseball. He has the power. What they need to do is get rid of that bag of bones and Terry Francona and Chris Valaika and bring somebody in that knows the analytics, that knows what a modern game is, that knows how they can build around Elly De La Cruz to maximize Great American Small Park that they have and start hitting some freaking home runs. Look, if the Reds 15 years ago could pay Joey Votto 10 years at $25 million, they can certainly pay Elly 10 years at $350 million. And currently, at this point in time, Elly hasn't done enough to get that contract that Juan Soto got. He's more along the lines of Bobby Witt Jr., which signed a $252 million 8-year deal last offseason. Boris Client, which is his agent, and he's tough to negotiate with. It's time for the Reds to start acting like an MLB franchise. It's time for Bob Castellini to put a stamp on the Reds. And, what do you want your legacy to be, Bob Castellini? So even though it could, in some sense, make a little bit of sense, what are you trading Elly for? A 22-year-old with less potential than Elly De La Cruz, or 2 of them with less, or even 3 of them with less? So, no, I don't think the Reds should trade Elly. I do believe that they won't trade him and they won't get maximum value for him when they eventually do in about 3 years. But, yeah, I don't think that that's what they need to do. I think they've got some good young pieces. I just think they need somebody that can complement Elly and knows what modern baseball is like. So,
impressive.
There you go.
Impressive.
There you go. Okay. Well, fellas, I wish I could stick on the line for a while. Next week, I'm free, so I sent over my picks to Ryan. Shockingly, I'm in first, even though it's a tie. And I want to point out in the couple minutes I have left, water finds its level, fellas.
It's one game, pipe down.
After 17 straight one-score wins, the Kansas City Chiefs have a one-score loss. They are 0-1 this year. So
okay, enough on that. Do you at least have 30 seconds to tell us your feelings about IU after week 1?
Well, look, if what IU had, if everything that should have happened, look, IU was in the red zone multiple times.
5 times.
I don't even know if 5 times and 0 touchdowns.
Correct.
Okay. Omar Cooper, who was their second best wide receiver last year, dropped a wide open, perfectly placed 55-yard touchdown from Fernando Mendoza.
Bounced off both hands, not just one, both.
Yeah, both hands, and he was 3 steps behind the defenders. So, look, if you just take 2 of those scores and take away one of the 75-yard runs, because they have 2, which aren't going to happen. I know that's a lot of what-ifs, but it's quickly a 3-score, well, it was already a 2-score game. It's quickly a 5-score game or a 6-score game.
Yep.
IU also started against FIU last year a little slow and quickly got it turned around. So I would have liked to seen some of those plays made and some of those red zone chances converted, but it didn't happen. And Cignetti's not going to put up with that. They're going to get that cleaned up. And yeah, I expect IU to roll bigly against Kennesaw State today.
All right. Well, we'll continue this conversation when you jump off the line. Best of luck today.
Thanks, fellas.
What's going to be, I don't know if I should say lower or higher, the beverages that are partaken in or your score? What will be higher?
Well, I think at this point, I'll probably have more beers than it is degrees outside. It's 46 degrees right now, and I'm out here for 36 holes. So, yeah, wish me luck because I am still an Indiana boy, and to them, I'm very Southern. So, yeah, I've got, let's see, I'm wearing two pairs of long johns for legs. I've got my little baklava. I've got a toboggan. I've got winter gloves. Yeah, pretty much. I've got everything that you could possibly have. So let's see if I'm going to look like the Michelin Man or if I can actually swing a golf club.
All right. Well, have fun. Good luck.
Thanks, fellas. See you, buddy.
Later.
You want to take a break?
Yeah, we'll take a break here. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy-Right Auto. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville, Chrysler, Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. Tom Fleming, Ryan Higginbotham, Jason Simpson live here in studio. Boys, before we pick up on any of our other topics, I have to mention this again just like I did last week. Still not the result that we are hoping for, but being at a Greensburg football game it's just different.
Yeah.
Like, what's so impressive, and this is, and you know my feeling on moral victories and everything. I made
right.
that. You knew this of me, but I obviously talked about it last week. One of the biggest things that the hill that Coach Slager is having to fight up, and you and I have talked about this in the past, Tom, winning is a habit, but so is losing.
Yep.
And the hardest thing to do when you are in the habit of losing is to not hang your head and woe is me when something goes wrong. To stop that ball from rolling downhill because you're thinking in the back of your mind, oh, here we go again. And what was so impressive last night was Greensburg was down 14-7 with it was under 2 minutes to go in the first half. Threw a pick six to go down 20-7 at half. Could have been a very deflating thing for a team that's not used to having success. Yeah. Came out to start the second half, received the opening kickoff of the second half, marched down the field, made the score 20-14. Got right back in the game. Came up with a couple of big stops along the way, but again, there's still that hurdle at the end you've got to get over, and yeah. They got Connorsville to 4th and 9 with under 5 minutes to play, and the quarterback and wide receiver from Connorsville, to their credit, kid made a great catch. Our defender was in very good position. He just kind of reached over him and took it from him, and they were able to convert that and then go in and score again to get that 2-touchdown lead back. But just as I said last week, the heart and the pride and the fight that these kids are showing, and to see all of the coaches engaged with the kids and the kids on the sideline engaged in the game, and you know, they're excited when they make big plays. They're disappointed, but not hanging their head feeling sorry for themselves, disappointed when something negative happens. You know, it's human nature. Everybody wants to do well and do their best, but just to see, you can see week after week that confidence growing, and at some point that dam's going to break, and they're going to break through and get that win. And the exciting thing about that is it's just going to continue snowballing after that, because they're finally going to see all of those lessons that, at least, you know, I'm obviously not a football coach, but I am a coach, and there are just things across all sports that you can begin to recognize. Yeah. And there are winning things happening with our football program right now. The wins just haven't started. It's going to happen, and I'm so excited for that, for them, for the day that happens. It's not quite there yet, and you know, I was talking to Coach Jackson this week at school, and I said, as silly as this sounds, from my perspective, one of the refreshing things to see is now the mistakes of football mistakes, which may sound a little silly, but again, it's just a sport thing. When it's simply a football mistake, you can coach that. You can fix that. And you can see that those things are getting done throughout the week of preparation as they move through these weeks of the season and get deeper into it. Things are improved, things are fixed, and so just so excited for continuing to see the growth and improvement each week with this team.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you look at Coach Slager's background. He turned Rushville into a winning program.
Yeah.
And Rushville was horrible, awful for years, and he was able to turn them around and have a winning record. So I think we're going to see the same kind of thing happen here.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then I was only given updates. Did you happen to watch the North Decatur game?
They ended up winning 21-20.
That's what I heard. Like, because they got behind 20-14 with under 30 seconds to go, right?
Yep.
And then returned the kickoff.
I don't know.
I thought I heard that they returned the kickoff after going down. They hit the extra point. They end up winning 21-20.
Wow.
Sounds like an absolutely wild affair between North Decatur and Milan.
You had the number 3 and number 11 teams in 1A, and North Decatur and Milan always play close games.
Are they still in the same sectional?
Yes.
So that
actually they're in the same conference now.
That could be a wild one come postseason time, and maybe Milan will learn their lesson. This is just an assumption. I'm going to assume that this is how I'll have to refer to him. No offense, but it's Carmen Thackeray's brother.
Right, Corbin.
No, it's Carmen Thackeray's brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just because.
That. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I got to give Carmen her props. I always have missed Carmen since she went out to North Decatur. She was always one of my favorites, so that's just a boost to her. But I'm going to assume they had him returning the kick.
Probably.
I mean, he's a very dynamic athlete on the football field, so maybe, Milan, and next time you may not want to kick to that guy. Kind of like, I still don't understand why teams kick to Carson Kilgore. But Carson always ends up with it, and he is a threat to bust one every single time he touches the ball. So, I don't know what's going on. So, I won't say excitement level was the same at Greensburg from that type of dynamic finish, but in different ways, congratulations to North Decatur and Greensburg on their football. And the only reason I'm not mentioning South Decatur is I honestly have no idea what happened for the Cougars last night.
They lost.
Who did they play?
They played Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, okay.
I think, if I got it right, 35 to... No, wait. I can't tell the way BJ's got this.
No, the way that reads, it looks like South Decatur won 35-6.
Yeah.
I don't know. If somebody,
I don't know.
If a South Decatur fan could let us know, we'd much appreciate it, because I don't want to slight any of our county schools here. We always want, at least I do, from my perspective as a teacher and coach at Greensburg, I want North Decatur and South Decatur to go undefeated in everything they do, except when they play Greensburg. That's the only time that I want them to lose. So hopefully we can get an update. Ryan, did you find it?
They did. They won 35-6.
Good.
And I would assume the player of the game was Jaden Jackson Ray. He had 17 carries, 140 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Not too shabby.
Good night.
Speaking of South Decatur, on Overtime with Messer this week, he had several coaches from South Decatur on. You can go back on YouTube, WTRE Radio, and find that. It's always on air, 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening, and it's live streamed as well. But you can go back and watch the episode if you would like.
I am so disappointed in myself, Tom. I made it 27 minutes and forgot to say, you can live stream our show now.
Yes.
Go to WTRE Radio on YouTube.
Yep.
Once you find the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, share,
and ring the bell.
So that we can feel the love here. I do know we got to give a shout out to one of our super fans, Scott Weiland. He tunes in every weekend from Indianapolis, but this weekend he's tuning in from Daytona Beach, Florida.
All right.
So assuming it's a little bit warmer down there than it is here, although it is going to warm up today, but it felt like a fall morning this morning.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well,
sure.
I didn't know we turned into a weather show, so my apologies. I asked Josh about it. I don't know how much of the game you watched last week or how much you read about the IU game, but let's talk a little bit about, there was some disappointment, first of all, starting from Coach Signetti in their performance of IU last week. And, what do they say? If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
You can go with the what ifs, just as Josh was talking about. Apart from the scoreboard, which I know that's where That's where games are played. But apart from that, it was absolute total domination by IU last week. You can't take them away because they happened. 2 misreads where the quarterback in a read option scenario kept it and scampered for 70-plus yard touchdown runs. If you take those 2 runs away, they had a little over 100 yards of total offense for the game. That's domination. IU got into the red zone 5 times and didn't score.
Oof.
Add 5 touchdowns to the score, and it's an absolute beatdown. I get it.
5 field goals.
Yeah, but what have we said basically since day one about Curt Cignetti?
I will say
he's going to get it fixed. I'm not worried about it at all.
I saw it after the Ohio State game was over, and you could tell Coach Cignetti was not happy at all, which, as you've said, IU used to be, they were just happy to get a win at all. I was not as impressed as I expected to be with Mendoza at quarterback, although it's just one game, just 1 week. I actually saw this week a mock draft for next year, and they had him going at number 11 to the Rams. So, I want to see what he does this week and see if there's improvement.
It was very strange from the standpoint of, and I think it was more last year, we've got to set the precedent right now, first year doing new things. IU played fast all year. And last week, they were back in the huddle more than I saw them probably all season combined last year. But I don't think that's a statement on what they're going to be. I think it's more, we now know what our established system is. Mm-hmm. We're going to stay vanilla until Illinois. Then we're going to ramp it up because, Mendoza was not, air quotes, impressive, but then again, a 55-yard touchdown pass is dropped. Receiver, outstretched arms right in hands and just doinks off his hands, add another to stats and it looks like a totally different stat line than what it was. But we don't go to a lot of the games. I do have season tickets, but it's one of those like today. We would want to go to tailgate to hang out and enjoy it. Kylie being in school there, her friends came and joined us last week, and it was fun to hang out with them and things like that. But it's work to do that each and every week. And when you're going in to a game that you could literally win. What did they win last year? It was 70-6 or something in week 2. It could very easily be that again today. I'm sorry, Coach Cignetti, because he got mad because everybody left at halftime like they did last year. The viewing experience of a live college football game, I don't care if it's the national championship game, it's not good. It used to be. So the progression of this, and I feel sorry for this guy because it's not his fault. He's just doing his job. It used to be just a guy, and I don't think he had an orange hat, but he had a different colored hat, and he would step off of the sideline onto the playing surface to signify TV timeout. Well, then they progressed to getting him. He would wear these things. They would go up to his elbows, and they were bright orange, and he would step out on the field and like cross his arms or something. TV timeout. Well, now they've upgraded to it almost looks like a down marker that has a clock on it. Steps out on the field, and it felt like every single stoppage and play. Here comes this poor guy again, 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. Here we go. And it was just, there's so many useless stoppages of play. If they could somehow, and I say somehow, it's not a difficult fix, just throw in more commercials during halftime.
Do a split screen.
Yeah, exactly. We've said that in the past. Do it like they do for the Indy 500. Continue the game in the background and show your ad on the side or on the bottom, whatever it might be. But there's no flow to the game. And I told you guys last year I went to that Colts and Dolphins game. Obviously, the football on the field was not wonderful, but that was the most boring live sporting event I've ever been to. But that's because, to me, that's the NFL's fault, because at least in college you got the bands and you got things like that, which can make it a little more entertaining. But we left at halftime. Kickoff was 2:30. We left at halftime and didn't leave Bloomington until almost a quarter till 5. And everything was already packed up. We didn't have to pack up our tailgate or anything. We did that before we went in the game.
Wow.
That's way too long. It just is. And so until they can figure out, and that's not Coach Cignetti's job, and I totally understand why you would be frustrated about that. It would be frustrating to see your stands empty out. But, man, it's just not a good viewing experience when there's so many stoppages in play. That poor guy standing out there with 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It's just a painful, slow drip also. And I don't know how you remedy this other than and you would then lose seating, or your stadiums would be so big there would be some bad seats. The only way to remedy this is to get wider aisles. But once you get into your seat, so you got a 3 minute and 30-second stoppage in play. Okay, I could run to the concession stand. I could run to the bathroom. Well, you're climbing over people.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, as Josh and I have talked about many times, the concession situation is better at IU, but it's still far from where it needs to be. There's still not enough restrooms. And so, okay, I'm going to miss this break. Well, then what happens most of the time is you miss the next segment of play and you're back to your seat for another break. So I get the frustration, but the live viewing experience at a football game is just it's tough to deal with.
The part that really that bugs me is when they do score a touchdown, commercials, kickoff, commercials, and then they start their drive, and it's like, it's just way too much.
And I get, like, we're not talking millions, we're talking billions of dollars wrapped up in this. I totally understand it, but there are so many things that you could do to remedy this that would not be difficult, but that's why we don't get paid the big bucks, Tom.
Yeah, definitely.
You talked about the pure domination of the game. I'm going over just the team stats. 20 more first downs. Third down efficiency, you guys were 10 for 17. Pretty decent for a first game. Total yards or touchdowns. You are at, like you said, a little over 100. Indiana had 502.
Could have been 557 if he catches that touchdown pass.
Passing yards, 193. Make it 242.
Yep.
And he would have been 19 for 32. Pretty good. Rushing. Take away the 100 and whatever yards with just on those two runs. They're under 100. Barely any. 309 rushing yards on 57 attempts.
For IU.
Yes. About 5.5 a carry. Penalties. Only 3 for 25 for IU. But here's the biggest thing. The time of possession. IU had 41 minutes and 28 seconds. Now, don't get me wrong. It's going to go down as the weeks go on.
Man.
But
Well, it'll go down this week because I think they'll score so quickly
Yes.
that they won't have the ball very long, but I could be wrong.
my guess, by the time they get to Illinois, it'll be around 30 to 35.
Yeah.
But pure domination, it reminds me a lot of last year beginning. What was it, 27 to 3, 24 to 3, their first week last year. New system, just getting going. This week, I mean, the spread is 36.5. They're going to win by 40 to 50.
Oh, I fully expect them to try to get to 70 points again. I truly believe – I think Cignetti is so upset with the performance of his offensive line in the red zone, and just he always preaches, what is it, fast, relentless – I can't remember what it is. but finishing drives, and they got themselves it's not like they were stalling out on their side of the 50 or anything like that. Like, to get into the red zone 5 separate times and not get points, at least you're getting there. And again, he in one season has set the bar so high. Here we are as IU fans disappointed with a win.
Yeah.
But that's the expectation now. When you're in his shoes, that's exactly what you want. Because let's be honest, there's nobody more disappointed than he is. The fans can be disappointed, but there's nobody that's more disappointed than he is. And there is nothing about his track record, not just at IU, but across all of his coaching stops, that say he's going to settle for anything that happened last week and is going to rest on his laurels and not have it fixed for this week and going forward. So, again, it was total domination. The scoreboard didn't resemble it the way we thought that it might, but you take that out of it, and there was nothing about last week that I walked away scared about or like, oh my gosh, they might not be very good this year. They're going to be perfectly fine. What
were your thoughts, BJ asked me before the show, on Arch Manning and his performance last week?
This is just me personally, I'm not putting it on Arch Manning. He was running for his life. So I'm attributing that to two things. Maybe Texas's offensive line isn't as good as anticipated and maybe than expected, but that was two incredibly good football teams playing each other. It was 14-7.
Yeah.
I mean, you got beat on the road against the number 3 team in the nation by a touchdown in your first start ever. There were some throws he underthrew or overthrew. It's his first start ever. I didn't get to see a lot of the game. How did
stats don't really show what he did. He ended up 13 of 20, had 3 drops. Jeremiah Smith had 2 drops, which is unheard of. He only had 2 drops all last year. I thought he played really well. They played very conservatively. I have questions about Ohio State's offensive line because I want to see how they do running these next couple weeks leading into the Big Ten season to see if it was a matter of the defensive line for Texas was just that good that it bottled them up. But, I thought Julian Sand did really well. I want to see him open it up more. He only had 1 throw more than 20 yards, and it was a 40-yard touchdown. And there were a couple times that I saw Jeremiah Smith running wide open down the field with nobody on him.
Wasn't there one on the very first possession?
Yeah.
Fourth down.
Yeah. I thought I remembered that. So, I think overall, just from what I've seen, again, I didn't get to see very much of it because we were packing up and heading into the IU game. But, 2 young quarterbacks, there would be nothing from either side that I would be trepidatious about moving forward with them as my starter. I think, let's be honest, if his last name was Smith, is anybody talking about that being a poor performance from a quarterback in his first start ever?
No.
He's burdened by his last name, and there's nothing he can do about that. But I think people expected him to come out and be firing it around all over the place and throwing for 350-plus yards because he's a Manning. It's not what was going to happen against a team like that. And then it'll be interesting to see this week, because I'm sure they're playing Directional Tech University. I have a feeling that Sark's going to want to build some confidence in him, so they're probably, they'll call some read option things so that he can keep the ball and use his legs, which is still funny to say for a Manning that's a strength of his. But try to get him in some different situations to make some different throws and just gain that confidence. And if I'm a Texas fan, there's not anything that I'm nervous about moving forward. And we've said it all the time. Losing
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Because you were the number 1 team in the nation. If you do what's expected of you and win the conference, you could still lose a game in the SEC, well, so long as it's not Mississippi State or Vanderbilt or a team like that. But, lose to Georgia, lose the Red River. Well, I shouldn't say that because Oklahoma is
Yeah.
We'll see on them today when they play Michigan. But losing that game meant nothing other than you lost your number one ranking. It is really all it did in the landscape that is the college football playoff now. It may push them out of a bye, but then again, take care of winning the conference and it doesn't. If you're the SEC champion, you're going to get that first round bye. So that really did nothing to harm their season outlook in any way.
But you look at the playoff from last year, those 4 teams that got a bye all lost their first game. So maybe having a bye is not so great. I was really shocked at the game that Sarkisian called last week. I mean, he was so conservative. And at the end of the game, I was just, is he like James Franklin, that he's like snake bit? Because here's 2 straight games against Ohio State where they were right there. And, the game in the playoffs, they gave up that touchdown with less than 30 seconds on the first play of a drive to Travion Henderson, and then you had him driving down the field. Sarkisian called a crazy play. I still don't know why he did it at the end of the game, and ended up with Jack Sawyer getting that 83-yard return. So, yeah, people are just trying to destroy Arch Manning. It's like, please, give it a rest.
Well, and what's so interesting about that is, what is Sark known for? He's known for being a gunslinger. Like, I would say the only other guy that gets labeled that more than he does would be Lane Kiffin. That going to open it up. They're going to try all sorts of different things. So that is, and it worked out for him, I guess. But he called a Ryan Day type game is really what he did. Very conservative, and maybe, and Josh would love this because he's all about not throwing much love at Arch, but maybe it's one of those deals. He sees him every day in practice. Maybe he knows that he's not capable of doing some of these things. I don't know, maybe, but then again, you get in under those bright lights and it's game 1 and you're on the road in the shoe, and maybe you also feel, we're just one play away, so just keep on with what we're doing. I can tell you guys this: when you are that guy on the sideline, if I said there's a million things going through your head, I'd probably be underselling it. And you got to find the right thing at the right time to call, and then on top of that, then the kids have to execute it, and it is surprising, but then again, when are these coaches going to understand? Get out of your own way. Don't be, if it's not working being ultra conservative, let's try something else. Like, don't paint yourself into the corner and then not have any way out. And I kind of feel like that's what happened last week to Texas.
You know what I want to talk about? What in the flip is going on with Alabama? What is Kalen DeBoer doing?
You know what? You never want to be the guy after the guy.
Oh my Lord!
It's sad.
So is Florida State officially back?
I see. I don't know.
Are they that good, or is Alabama just going to be that bad this year?
And that's the thing. And I get it, because what was Alabama last year? 9-4.
They ended up 9-3 in the regular season. They lost bowl game.
Okay, so they lose 4 games. Well, it took Nick Saban about 8 seasons to lose 4 total games. So you got that. But it's one of those things. You're already starting behind the 8 ball because of the season you had last year. Maybe you get to December and that doesn't look like a bad loss. Maybe Florida State is officially, air quotes, back, because you want to talk about Alabama's upset after a 4-loss season. How about going 2-10 last year, like Florida State did, and not being close in? I don't know if any of those 10 losses were even close. But is this is this a sign that Kalen DeBoer isn't the guy? Is it a sign that Florida State is officially back? Is it a sign that maybe Alabama's talent level isn't what it used to be? Because let's be honest, when Nick Saban was basically running roughshod over college football, you would turn on an Alabama game, and what was the first thing that was always said? Their second and third string guys were 5-stars who may not see the field and were going to get drafted into the NFL. Yep. Well, now guess what? That talent gets pushed everywhere, and I know it's a semi-tongue-in-cheek joke, but it's amazing how good everybody else can be now that it's legal to pay players.
Right. Because
now everybody else is doing it, whereas, the running joke was that the SEC has just always done that. So, I don't know if it's one of those three things. I don't know if it's something completely different. I don't know if it's a combination of all three. I hate to say it because, he was at IU and then did a great job at Washington, but I don't know if Kalen DeBoer is – not saying the guy can't coach football, but there are some jobs, IU basketball, Kentucky basketball, Notre Dame football, Alabama football. There are some jobs that you can't just be a guy. You've got to be the guy for that specific job because some jobs are just different. And it doesn't take away from your knowledge of the game, but you might not just be cut out for that job. And it's been one season and one game, but I think there's more evidence on the side that he isn't the guy than there is evidence that he is the guy.
Yeah, I read this week that there was a question about the level of discipline in the team because they were known with Saban. They did not have penalties, especially the first game of the season. He had that there, and then that there's a lot more joking around in the locker room than there was over Saban. So it sounds like there's a discipline issue, and I don't know.
Well, and if that is the case, that's one of those. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you're not getting it back. Yeah. Like, if it's just a scheme issue, you can work on that. You can fix that. If it's discipline and things like that, the genie don't go back in the bottle.
Right. Yeah. What was I going to say? I forget what I was going to say. Ryan, you got something on it?
Well, just wanted to go over Alabama's schedule. And I was watching the Joel Klatt show on YouTube, and he talked about there's a potential – that Alabama could lose 5 games this year. They have UL Monroe. Now, notoriously, that was Nick Saban's first loss at Alabama. But
can you imagine what happens? Because that's today, right?
Yes.
What happens if they win that game like 30-21?
Oh my!
If
God.
It's not a 40-point blowout,
yeah.
I know it will be off of a win. DeBoer might get fired. If they don't win big and look absolutely dominant, he might get run out of town even after a win.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. On TV throughout the course of the week, all the talking heads were saying Alabama can't pay that buyout because Alabama doesn't have oil money like all the schools in Texas. $70 million is a big thing for Alabama, so he may get another year just because of that.
Yeah.
After that, they're at home against Wisconsin. That's going to be a win. As I can assume, Wisconsin's probably going to be 5-7 this year.
And Luke Fickell will get fired.
Yeah.
And then here comes the SEC. At number 4, Georgia.
That's a loss.
At home against Vanderbilt.
They got beat by him last year, but being at home.
It's an iffy. But
is it Pavia? Is that the guy that's at Vanderbilt? Boy, that guy is writing some checks I don't think his backside's going to be able to cash, but hey, good for him.
Yep.
And then they're at Missouri. Now, we don't know about Missouri yet. They have a big game today against Kansas, but could be something.
Yeah, Missouri is one of those teams that, they moved to the SEC and you don't hear about them a bunch, but then you look up and they're winning 7, 8, 9 games a year, and you're like, man, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Then they're at home against Tennessee, and by all accounts, Tennessee looks like they won. Not only did they win the game, they won the quarterback trade of the year.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I didn't see anything about it.
Yeah, Aguilar was incredible.
Oh my gosh.
Iamalieva was horrible.
I am not shocked that Iamalieva was bad. I didn't know anything about the other guy. But
It was a 45-26 win over Syracuse, and he was 16 of 28 for 247 and 3 touchdowns.
Jeez. Okay. Not a bad first game.
No.
Okay. And where is that? Is it at Tennessee or at Alabama?
It's at Alabama.
Okay.
My first guess, it'd be probably an 8 p.m. ABC game, if all accounts for Alabama go right. The next week, they go to South Carolina.
That's
South
a nippy
Carolina,
one.
I can't tell if they're overrated or underrated. I can't
I'm
tell if they're
still
perfectly
not
rated.
buying.
I can't tell.
I'm not throwing all my money in the stock of South Carolina. Lenora Sellers is fun to watch, but I'm going to reserve judgment on them.
Give it a couple weeks.
Yeah, they are fun to watch because Sellers is legit, but we'll pump the brakes on them because I don't think that.
I don't think they're the 10th best team in the country.
No.
No.
Maybe top 20, yeah, but
I have rose-colored glasses when it comes to South Carolina since I lived there.
now here is a definite 8 o'clock start, probably an ABC game if everything goes right for Alabama. What I can only assume is going to be the either number 1, number 2, or number 3 team in the country by then. LSU comes to town. Now, last year, Jalen Milroe absolutely killed LSU, but Garrett Nussmeier looks like he's figured it out, and he played a great game last week and choked at some point.
Yep.
Just depends on when that game is going to happen. Now, another team, we do not know really what's going to happen, and we'll find out tonight. Oklahoma comes to town. That could be a great game. Who knows? Oklahoma could be 4-6 by then. And then they have the cupcake, Eastern Illinois, and then at Auburn for the Iron Bowl. At the
And
end of the
Auburn's
year.
supposed to be good this year.
Auburn looked good against Baylor. So, I mean, I would say a loss to Georgia, maybe a loss to Tennessee, LSU, and you could have South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Auburn.
So that's 7 possibly.
You could this Alabama, and I don't even think this is a hot take. I think Alabama will not be ranked by the end of the year.
Man.
2 seasons in a row where IU is better than Alabama. What world are we living in?
How quickly they fall. Man.
Jeez Louise. We've only got a couple minutes here before the top of the hour. What would you say, we just kind of said it there, Alabama football, Notre Dame football, IU basketball, Kentucky basketball, Duke basketball, North Carolina basketball. What other jobs can you guys think of that you could be, from a success standpoint, you might be one of the most successful coaches in that given sport, but may not be cut out for that specific, like it's that job, you just got to be different.
Ooh.
I would say Kansas basketball. I would say LSU baseball.
Yeah, I didn't even think
Oklahoma
baseball.
softball.
Oklahoma softball.
Would Vanderbilt fall into that from a baseball standpoint? They're good every year
Yeah.
in baseball.
They've had a couple off years, but here recently they've been able to get back up there. South Carolina women's basketball.
Well, I wouldn't say that from. They've just been good since Don Staley took over.
UConn
really.
women's basketball.
UConn, yeah, and we don't know yet because Gino's been there for forever. So
Could you say Tennessee women's basketball?
I think it's kind of lost some of the shine on that job.
Trying to think of other.
I think, to that point, I think as we get further and further into the future away from it, that's going to become more true. But I think even as big as Tennessee women's basketball was, and I coach it. I love it. I've got nothing against it. I don't think it was difficult to follow Pat Summitt. Why? Because the popularity and notoriety overall of women's basketball in the moment that it happened, that literally the only pressure came from Knoxville.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yes.
Whereas I think as the game continues to grow and get more and more popular, I think, a UConn is going to be difficult. If South Carolina continues to be as relevant as they are now, I think that does happen. But I think just because of the time in which it happened, and I couldn't even tell you who took over, but I think they were given more grace simply because, yes, Tennessee women's basketball was a national brand, but there were really no national expectations and things once Pat Summitt was gone, simply because I think it was looked at more as a niche sport more than anything. And thankfully, that thinking is going by the wayside.
I believe that they're on their third coach now since Pat Summitt. So, yeah, things
And
have
I
changed
think
a little
she's
bit.
doing a pretty good job.
Well, then they have a brand new one starting this year.
I thought they I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I got one more college football one. Now, just because it's not based on the history of the program, but just because of what the coach has been able to do for him. Utah with Kyle Whittingham.
Oh, and what about Ohio State football? I mean, that's one.
Yes.
If you're the coach there are high expectations.
Oh, for sure. Like I'm not saying high expectations, but I'm saying you got to be a different breed to go in and be successful.
Yeah.
To me, you could put say Luke Fickell had stayed there. Luke Fickell would have been successful at Ohio State if he had the right coaching staff around him, because they would have gotten the dudes. There are just some things, like I'm going to use IU for a perfect example. There are such high expectations. You can get the dudes, but those dudes have got to understand what it means to be playing there. And that doesn't happen just – it used to, 70s, 80s. You walked onto a campus, if you walked into Assembly Hall, you knew and you just did what was expected. That's not the way of the world anymore. So you have to have a guy who knows that himself, but then is able to build a program that pulls that out of them. It's the expectation of the program, and I just think that that's actually praise to Ohio State. I think you roll out of bed at Ohio State and you're going to win 8-9 games, which for Ohio State is not good enough. But
I read something about Ohio State is, if you were playing the stock market, Ohio State is always one you can depend on. They're kind of like recession proof.
They're Apple. That's what they
are.
Yeah.
All right, Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Byright Auto. Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming, Jason Simpson live here in studio. You know, during the break there, Tom, I may have rethought my statement on Ohio State because you know Ohio State fans very well, being one yourself and having lived there for a while. I don't know if there is another school who can win a national title and the fan base is still mad at you because you lost to your rival.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to lose to their rival, but is there a school anywhere that hates to lose to their rival more than Ohio State does?
Oh, yeah, I don't think so.
Maybe North Carolina and Duke basketball.
Yeah,
but since they play each other twice a year, I think that they don't love it. You know, I don't know. I know that there are some harsh feelings between SEC teams, but maybe it's just because we're closer to it. You kind of get that feeling, but I can't imagine what that would be like for Ryan Day or whoever is in that position to have people not satisfied with it. And I think most Ohio State fans are, but there is a faction of them who are not satisfied with winning a national title last year simply because they lost to Michigan.
They are already. I've seen reports, people in the media in Columbus, fans, that Ryan Day is 71-10 now. But people are saying if they go undefeated and lose to Michigan, the athletic department is really going to have to look at maybe the ridiculous. So 71-10 brought you a national championship.
He's 71-10 with a national championship. If you get to that point, he would be 81-10 going into that game.
Yeah,
would that
There's
be right?
11 more games, so 82.
So he'd be 82-10 going into that game. Coming out of the game, he would.
Yeah, 82-11.
82-11
with a national championship.
But the knock against him would be would that be 5
that would be
out
5.
of the 11?
5 out of 6 with him as head coach.
But what I'm saying is 5 out of his 11 total losses would be to Michigan.
4. He's 1-4 against Michigan.
I thought they'd lost 4 in a row. They've only lost 3 in a row.
He won the first year that he was coach.
Okay,
and then they didn't play the COVID year, and then Michigan's won the 4 games since COVID.
Yeah, so he's lost 4. So he's only played them 5 times.
Right.
I'm sorry. I thought, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. No, because, if they would lose this year, that would be 5.
And
So
especially when you look
games.
at, we talked about it last week, when you look at what Ohio State did. See, now I'm blanking out again. Go ahead, guys.
But it's just, it's one of those things. But the thing is, you know, my sister and brother-in-law and their family lived in Columbus for 24 years. They became dyed-in-the-wool Buckeye fans. Now, not that level of insanity. They just enjoyed, being Buckeye fans. My niece graduated from Ohio State. The level of insanity is real. And I can promise you, I know newspapers are still a thing, even though.
Yeah.
But in the newspapers in Columbus, on the radio stations in Columbus, there will be people questioning Ryan Day simply because 5 out of 11 losses came to Michigan. Even with the national title in your back pocket, an 82-11 overall record. Well, we're assuming they go undefeated to that point. Even if they lose, they're going to be at worst, a 5 or 6 seed in the playoffs, most likely. Although if they lose that game, depending what happens around them, they could still go to the Big Ten championship game, win the Big Ten championship, be most likely the number 2 seed if they lost to Michigan, but then the SEC champion would probably vault them to number 1.
I remember what it was. It was, we looked at what Ohio State's record is against Michigan this century, and it's dominating.
Yeah.
Tressel went, he lost twice, so he was 8-2, Fickle lost his year that he was coach. Urban went 7-0. So people are well, Urban wouldn't have lost those games. You don't know that. But yeah.
Yeah, let's not forget, everybody wants to heap praise on Urban Meyer. He lost a chance.
We should have had 3 national championships.
That's exactly right, with maybe the most talented Ohio State roster this century. The team that he lost with, was that the best team that Ohio State's had?
Yeah, the year after they won the national championship, they had a better team, and he made boneheaded play calls. I think Randy and I were driving, to a game that you had at Oldenburg that year, because I know I ended up in Oldenburg. But he blew against Michigan State, and that was the only game they lost all year.
And would that be that team that did they even get – that was BCS days. Did they even get into the BCS?
No, they weren't in the top 2.
So that one-loss team – is that the best team Ohio State's had this century?
I believe so.
Better than last year's national championship team?
Oh, yeah.
And so you can't just throw out there, well, Urban Meyer would have won. There's this legend around him because he brought a national title back and all these things. But look at what happened once he left. How good is Urban Meyer?
Yeah.
I know he was successful at Utah. He was successful at Florida. He was successful at Ohio State. But let's not forget what he did turn into. So maybe, and, all these stories come out, inmates running the asylum whenever Urban Meyer is in charge. And that's just...
Yeah, Urban's never going to go someplace and be a 15, 20-year coach at one location. Got a message from our good friend Mark over at Buy Right Auto, and he says that apparently Jason doesn't know what real true fans are, especially when there's really great and loyal fans, and then mix in several thousand wackos. I would say several 10,000s of wackos, but so when it comes to Ohio State.
There are far more wackos than there are normal everyday fans of Ohio State.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, so Mark already lost that argument there because Ohio State the absolute 2 worst fan bases in college sports. You know who they are?
Ohio State football
and Kentucky basketball.
Yeah.
You ain't got to tell me twice.
There are no worse fan bases as far as delusional Donnas that, sorry to any Donna I may have offended, but just delusional fan bases in thinking that it's your birthright to win a national title every year. Like, I'm sorry, in college basketball, you've got over 300 teams trying to beat you each and every year. In college football, you've got 136 teams trying to beat you every single year. They're not going to roll over just because you're Ohio State or just because you're Kentucky. Like that, it's not the reality of it. And shoot, you've heard me have this conversation with my teams at the high school level. When you get to a certain level of success, the target can't get any bigger because it's just a permanent target on your back.
Yeah.
You are going to get the other team's best effort every single game that you play. It's a great place to be in because that means you've earned that.
Yeah.
But that also means you don't get a playoff. You can't take an A in football. You can't take a snap off. In basketball, you can't take a possession off because they are going to continue to come at you because for a lot of these schools, high school, college, doesn't matter, if they can win that game, it could make their season. Regardless of what else happens, if they can put that on their wall to say they beat Ohio State, it can be a season-making victory for them. And so, it's just one of those things that you've got to always be prepared. You can never let your guard down. And but from a fan base standpoint, sorry, there is nothing that is promised to you. And Alabama is kind of going through this right now.
Yeah.
Like, welcome to being a regular college football program. Because For all we know, as your very first question about it, Ryan, does this mean Florida State's back? It's not like you lost to Louisiana Tech. Just going name for name, losing to Florida State is not a bad loss.
No.
Like, that is a historic football program. Welcome to college football, Alabama.
Well, and people don't think back to what Alabama was before Nick Saban. They had a long stretch of bad years. Bad, not 9-3, 10-2.
Well, was it Mike Shula?
Yes.
that came in there?
Yeah.
He was bad.
Yes.
They were 500 and under 500 for a couple of years.
Yep.
I can't remember what was the name of the coach that won the national title for them back in the 90s.
Gene Stallings.
Is that who it was?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember, because then after him is when the downward spiral kind of happened until Saban got there, right?
Yeah.
Just a lot of failed experiments. And honestly, to me, you could compare that to what IU basketball has been through. I'm not claiming in any way that Darren DeVries is Nick Saban. I'm not saying that. But you get that feel that now there's a guy in charge who, A, gets it. Indiana basketball, he gets what it is and is going to start that train going down the right track when it comes to everything that's expected with it. And you even saw, I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter or TikTok or anything, this is what it means to get it. How many times you think students ever saw Mike Woodson on campus around Bloomington?
Probably never.
I would say less than zero. Multiple times Darren DeVries has been seen out on campus interacting with students during freshman move-in week. There's videos of him and the coaching staff helping freshmen get stuff out of their cars, move it into their dorm, interacting with parents and students. Like, is it a PR stunt? Absolutely it is. But guess what that's called? That's called getting it.
Yeah.
You get it. That gets put out there to the Indiana fan base, and they're like, there's our coach. He's one of us. He's part of the community. That's the first thing that it takes. Now, will it have any impact whatsoever on wins and losses? Absolutely not. But it has an impact on building a culture and building back a program, getting that support from the fan base behind you, which you get that support from the fan base behind you. We know what a home court advantage Assembly Hall can be.
Yep.
Maybe that does impact a win or two, because you have that built-in home court advantage, and they're not going to not show up, which I can tell you over the last few years there are a lot of empty seats disguised as fans inside of Assembly Hall. And, every game at IU is a sellout, but it doesn't mean every seat is filled.
Right.
The tickets have been sold, but that doesn't mean that the seats are filled. And so that's an example of a coach who gets it, and then you start to build your program from there.
Yeah. I kind of think with DeVries, you may have the basketball version of Kurt Signetti. That's what I think.
I absolutely agree with that. The one thing about DeVries is he's not going to be as forward and brash publicly as Signetti is, but I guarantee you he will be as fiery and things in a positive, not in a Bob Knight way, but on the sidelines and in practice and things like that. He's going to have that passion for sure. And so it's, as Josh and I have said for basically since the hire was made, can't be anything but excited for what the future looks like. Well, there was a major story that broke, was it yesterday or Thursday morning, in the NBA involving the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard and Steve Ballmer. And this thing, it just keeps getting more and more strange. And when the details come out and you learn kind of what happened, you have to wonder because this was something I never even contemplated that could be occurring. But then you're like, man, I wonder how often this does occur. I don't remember exactly what the name of the company was. I can, let me see here. Aspiration.
Yeah.
It was an environmentally oriented startup that Steve Ballmer had invested in himself. Well, this Aspiration Corporation had many celebrity endorsement deals that they had done. But then there was one with one Kawhi Tiberius Leonard III, Esquire, that was for $28 million, which you're like, okay, well, he's a professional athlete, $28 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but in the whole scheme of things, who knows? I don't know. Until you hear some of the other A-list celebrities who were, I can't find it anywhere on here who it was, but there were big-name movie stars and things like that who were also benefactors to this organization who got endorsement deals. But if you combined all of the deals they got and doubled it, it still didn't reach what Kawhi Leonard got. So the accusations are this was Steve Ballmer or the Clippers' way of circumventing the salary cap to get Kawhi Leonard to sign there. Kawhi Leonard's a max contract player anyway, so it didn't matter where he went. There was only a certain amount he could get paid. But there are allegations now that extra $28 million was used to sweeten the pot to get him to sign specifically with the Clippers. Obviously, Steve Ballmer denies it vehemently, and there are reports coming out now that, because this aspiration is defunct, and they ripped off a lot of people, and Steve Ballmer came out and said, look, they ripped me off. I got swindled also. And do I believe that? Yes. Do I believe that $28 million to Kawhi Leonard was used to circumvent the salary cap? I don't know. I won't be surprised either way what the findings come out and prove. I also have stuck in the back of my head, Steve Ballmer is the fourth or fifth richest man on the planet?
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't think he would even need to use a shell corporation with the amount of money that dude loses under his couch cushions. He could just literally, as you would see in movies, he could get a bag of money and hand it to Kawhi Leonard, and it would be less than a tax write-off for him. He could literally go probably rifle through the change in his ashtray in his car and give Kawhi Leonard $28-30 million. So, I think that Steve Ballmer would be smart enough to not do it in that way if he was going to do it, simply because even though it looks legit and it's an endorsement deal and all these things, there's still a paper trail. I could be very wrong. Smarter people than me get caught doing dumber things than that, but I think this is going to be one of those things that there is smoke, but there's no fire. It's smoke for a different reason. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and Mark Cuban is defending Steve Ballmer. Even if it happened, he's defending him, saying, so what? I think Steve Ballmer is smarter than that. I mean, you don't have $153 billion unless you're smart.
Yeah.
And, obviously it's all Microsoft money. But, I just find it hard to believe that he would do that. It just, I just don't see it. I don't think that it happened. If it did, then the NBA needs to come down on him. And the last time something like that happened was with Joe Smith back in 1995.
Yeah.
He signed 3 one-year contracts with the Timberwolves so they'd stay under the cap, with the promise that he would get a contract after those 3 years for some crazy amount of money. And the Timberwolves were stupid enough to put that in writing in the contract that he signed, but they lost 5 first-round draft picks. So the Clippers, if they find out that Ballmer did that, they could be looking at a punishment like that. And Kawhi Leonard's contract would be voided.
Well, the scary part about that for the Clippers should be they already gave I think they still owe the Thunder 3 or 4 first-round picks for the Paul George trade. And was James Harden involved in that one too? Was it? No, Harden went from the Thunder to the Rockets first, right?
Yeah.
There was another deal that was done that involved the Clippers that the Thunder still own like 3 or 4 of the Clippers' next first-round picks. If you throw another 5 on top of that, you could be looking at almost 10 years, unless they're able to get it through trade, that the Clippers wouldn't have a first-round draft pick. Now, in saying that, let's not forget the Clippers play in L.A., number one. Number two, in the most modern, technically advanced arena in all of sport across the globe. There is not a more advanced, higher-level arena anywhere, at least as we speak right now. And you play for an owner much like Mark Cuban was, who is a basketball junkie. He wants to field winning teams. He's going to do what it takes to entice free agents to come there. So, although draft picks are important, I think in a situation like this, the Clippers could survive that because he's going to be able to get free agents in there, hopefully within the rules if you come to find out that it wasn't legit. But, you know, this comes out because there is a defunct organization that's involved. But now it shines a light on, across the league, how many of these things are happening that, you know, you have an owner who might have interest in a business. Hey, let's do an endorsement deal outside. You talk to the agent, you talk to the player like, hey, we're going to sign you up to this. It will be on top of, because the biggest part about that $28 million was it was basically a no-show endorsement clause. Right. Simply because you are signing with us, we're giving you this money for nothing. And we can say, yeah, Kawhi Leonard endorses our organization.
Yep.
How many other places does that happen? That, and if you're, oh my gosh, I about said David Stern. If you are
Adam Silver,
you got to be sweating bullets right now that you're going to find out this is a widespread thing, and you've got corruption just bleeding through your league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was another report by the same guy who brought it out about Kawhi.
Pablo Torres.
Yeah.
That something like this might have happened with the reconstruction of Jalen Brunson's contract last year. That when Jalen Brunson when the Knicks reconstructed his contract so he get a little bit more money for a couple more years, that supposedly there was another endorsement deal, kind of like this, for not as much money, but something along that happened for him to get just a little bit more money.
Yeah, because he didn't take the max with the Knicks, so, yeah.
Which is weird because he's the best player on the Knicks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We need to take a break.
Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Byrite Auto. Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming, Jason Simpson live here in studio. Tom, we're going to get into our picks from last week and make our picks for this week. But before we do, we don't do the segment anymore, but we do know there is a Hall of Fame for Get Off My Lawn, Tom's former segment that we started each show with. Well, one of our inductees into the Hall of Fame has done it again. Why don't you tell us about one Angel Shaniqua Laquan Reese III?
Yeah, she came out in an interview and basically called teammates out by name, and that she wasn't going to put up with this losing anymore, that they needed to get some good players or great players, and Courtney Vandersloot, you can't depend on her, and several others. She came out and just blasted them. And then after it got out in the news, then she backtracked and said, well, I didn't really mean it like that. Well, what she said, yes, she did mean it. And she's not wrong, but you don't do that. Not in the media, not in an interview. So, they've had a horrible year. I mean, they're 10-31 now.
Yeah.
And as a result of doing that, she missed last night's game against the Fever because she had hit the maximum number of technical fouls.
You don't say. Yeah. She's got a bad attitude, Tom?
Yeah, imagine that.
Who'd have thunk that?
And then their game coming up, I think it's tomorrow against Minnesota, she's suspended for the first half for conduct
detrimental to the team.
That's it.
And if I'm the organization, I tell the head coach, she's officially suspended for the first half. Don't play her in the second half.
Yeah.
We got nothing to play for. So let's send a message to Angel that, you don't hold us hostage. We're still running this organization. And although she was correct maybe in her thinking, when you're in a team sport, you don't do those things publicly. You just don't. If you have an issue with teammates, you take care of it in the locker room or behind closed doors in a meeting with the coach and the players or whatever it might be. You do not go air your dirty laundry to the media and out in public and then have to backtrack because you stuck your foot so far in your mouth. But are we surprised at all that it's coming from Angel Reese?
No.
And let's call a spade a spade. You're upset because you claim you don't have good enough players to be successful. Are you not a player on that team?
Yep.
Maybe you're one of the problems. Maybe you're not good enough.
Well, and she also said that, if things don't change around here, I'm going to find someplace else to play.
Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Have fun.
Who takes it?
Yep.
But do you know how quickly you'd be a fan if she was on the Fever?
Yeah, I know. I know.
But I digress. All right, Ryan, we've put you in charge of the picks for this year, so why don't you recap what happened last week, and we'll get into the picks for this week.
Not a great week. I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't a great week. We had two technically we had 3 over 500. Jason, you were unfortunately the only one that was under 500.
I am not going to take credit for that because obviously I was at a tailgate as these picks were occurring, so we'll just leave it at that.
And I'm upset with IU because they didn't cover something. When I first saw the picks, in my gut was saying take Old Dominion. IU won't cover. And then you know how smart Vegas is. In that South Carolina game, they put that half point in there. They win by 13, and it was 13.5. So, yeah, a couple schools I'm not real happy with.
All right, so this week got some ranked games, but only one big one. And we are starting week 1 of the NFL. Our first game, number 11 Illinois travels.
Wait a minute, you didn't tell us what everybody's record was last week.
Okay. Tom and Josh both went 6-4. I'm pretty sure Tom won the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I did.
Tom won tiebreaker. Myself, I went 500. I am 5-5, and Jason went 4-6.
So, pretty usual. We're all right there with one another. Okay.
Which I'll gladly take that all year. But our first game, number 11 Illinois travels to Duke, and they are favored by 3.5 points.
You know, I don't think Illinois is going to be as good as everybody thinks. I don't trust Brett Bielema. I don't like him either, going back to when he was at Wisconsin. And then he went to Arkansas so he could be an SEC coach, and he was horrible there. Somehow he got another job in the Big Ten. I'm going to go with Duke.
Are you taking them outright or just to cover?
To cover.
Okay.
If Duke does not win outright, and I think they might, I still think they cover, because I think if Illinois wins, it's by a field goal, which means that, there you go, that Vegas extra half point. So I'm actually going to take Duke in this one as well.
I'm going to take Illinois only because I think by the time they're going to get a couple of these wins, but by the time they get to Indiana, they're going to be undefeated. And that's the I don't believe in Illinois, but I don't know what to expect out of Duke. Duke the last couple of years has been 9-3, 7-5, or really bad. So I don't know what to expect.
Who did Josh take?
Josh took Duke.
All right. And I hope you're right. Like, I hope Illinois wins this game but doesn't cover, so that my pick is right. But I want them undefeated when they come to Bloomington for their beatdown.
Our second game is the Cyhawk Bowl. Iowa is traveling to number 16 Iowa State, and Iowa State is favored by 3.5 points.
Yeah, Iowa is finally supposed to have a quarterback this year.
How'd that
I don't know
work
how
out
much that's
for 'em
going to
last
mean.
week?
Yeah.
I don't think he was very good.
I think Iowa State is just too strong. They're going to win this game and cover.
Ryan, go ahead.
I'm going to take Iowa State. These games are always close, but I think this is going to be the one year. It's not going to be a 20-point win, but I think this is going to be the year where you're going to get a 10 to 12-point victory. It's going to be, 30 to 15 or 30 to 18, something like that.
All right, so we're better at quarterback this year, right, Tom?
Yep.
That's what
That's what they say.
everybody's saying.
That's what they're saying.
Oh my gosh, Iowa finally better at quarterback.
What was the stats?
They beat the Albany. What is that? It's some sort of dog.
Bulldogs.
That's not a bulldog.
I think.
I don't know what that is. It almost looks like a
Wolf.
greyhound or something.
Wolf.
Anyway, Albany canine of some kind. Iowa wins 34-7. Sounds good, right? The new savior at quarterback, I about called him Gronkowski, but it's Mark Gronowski, was a whopping 8 for 15 for 44 yards, one touchdown, with a QBR of 24.
Who's that, Anthony Richardson?
24. Wow. Now, they rushed the ball for 310 yards, so that's not surprising. I am in no way I think Kirk Ferentz is a phenomenal football coach, but I also still think that he coaches like it's 1987, which wins him games, just doesn't win him big games. I'm taking Iowa State. The joke has been the last few years that Iowa would struggle to get to 3.5 points by themselves. They haven't done anything that changes my mind about that. So I don't think Iowa State struggles in this. I think they win by 10 plus.
Yeah, that quarterback, I believe he came from North Dakota State, one of the best FCS teams, or Division II, whichever it is that they are. I think they're FCS. So, take that for what it's worth.
Josh, I don't know if he mistyped or what, but Josh took Iowa.
He took the Hawkeyes. So, all right.
We'll see what happens. Our next game.
What did you take, Ryan?
I took Iowa State.
Okay.
Our next game, Baylor is traveling to number 17 SMU, and SMU is favored by 2.5 points.
I don't know much about either team, but I'm going to go with SMU.
Baylor is one of those teams that, early in the year you think, I don't know if they're going to be very good, and you look up at the end of the year and they've had a nice, they're 8-4. They get to a decent bowl game, and so they go 9-4. But this is one of those. SMU is that school who's looking for the respect. They want the Boise State type treatment. You're playing a Big 12 opponent in Baylor on your home turf. You're going to want to send a message. I'm not saying they blow them out or anything, but a 2.5-point spread. Being at home, I think I've got to go with SMU.
Josh also took SMU. I'm going to go with Baylor, and I'm going to go outright. I think you said it best. They want the Boise State treatment. Well, they're about to get it because how South Florida took care of business against Boise State. It's going to be just like that. I think Baylor, they played a very good Auburn team week 1, and their quarterback had 400-something yards, had 3 touchdowns. I think he's going to play phenomenal again. So I'm going to take Baylor outright. Next up, not the second, but the biggest game of the weekend. Kennesaw State is traveling to number 23, Indiana. And Indiana is favored by 36.5 points. I think we all...
I'm going to, since I went wrong on IU, I want to see them win by 40 or 50 points, so I'm going to take Kennesaw State to cover, and that way they'll win by 50.
I love it. 36.5 is just such a wide margin. But I also know who is on the sidelines still in Bloomington. I know how unhappy he was with the scoreboard portion of it and just the cleanliness of the game last week. I also remember what happened week 2 and hanging 70. I have less than zero doubt that IU goes out. They might have to replace, I don't even think they use bulbs anymore. It's LEDs. They're going to have to replace LEDs on the scoreboard because they just get burned up today. I think IU rolls. They're going to roll, but they're going to roll past that 36.5 and cover.
This is going to surprise nobody. Josh also took IU.
Yeah.
Our next game.
What did you take?
I took Indiana.
Okay.
I have a feeling this is going to be a big blowout. Hopefully. Our next game, I added it I had a different game originally, but I added this game as soon as I kind of saw how they played against Boise State. South Florida is traveling to number 13 Florida, and Florida is favored by 17.5.
For Billy Napier, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it looked like absolute and utter domination last week against Boise State, but let's not forget Ashton Genty is not in the backfield anymore for Boise State. And when you have 11 people that are on the field at any given moment, you can never say it's a one-man team, but my goodness gracious.
Was it a one-man team last year?
It looks to me like that might have been a one-man team in Boise State last year. It's at the Swamp, DJ Lagway under center. Billy Napier is, for all intents and purposes, every Saturday out, he's fighting for his job. This is one of those he needs to get style points and kind of let the fan base feel good about where they are. So I know 17.5 is a big number, and if it was at South Florida, I wouldn't take the Gators. I would take the Gators to win, but to not cover. But I think being at home in the Swamp, I think Florida is able to get it done.
Billy Napier better win this game because here's his next 4 weeks. LSU, Miami, Texas, and Texas A&M. He could come out of that 0-4
really well and be 0-4.
Yeah. So I'm taking South Florida.
Josh also took South Florida. Now, this game, I don't know, because South Florida looked good, but again, it was against Boise State, who looks not like themselves at all. But DJ Lagway is unbelievable. Like you said, Jason, it's pretty much 18 points. I wouldn't be shocked if they won this game by 3. I wouldn't be shocked if they won this game by 30. I don't know. But I'm going to take Florida, and I think I'm going to say probably about 3 touchdowns, and they might get a garbage time touchdown to just push it over the edge. Our next game, the only unranked game of the entire week, but kind of a big one. Kansas is traveling to Missouri, and Missouri is favored by 6.5.
Last week, Bo Pribula, the quarterback that came from Penn State, he's at Missouri now. He had a huge game last week.
Is that the kid that was forced to transfer during the playoff last year because of the way the transfer rules?
Yes.
And like, I still remember James Franklin talking about how, like, not disappointed in a mad way, but disappointed just because he liked the kid so much that he had to make that decision to leave, and he totally understood it. I remember that.
I think when Drew Aller decided to come back for his senior year, I think that was a big part of it. So I'm going to go with Missouri.
Kansas is one of those that they've been kind of quietly in the background because they were IU level bad in football for a lot of years. But they've been kind of quietly in the background, just building things and becoming more competitive and being a nice story. But this is SEC versus Big 12. If you are Missouri, you have to win these games because you're getting ready to go into the gauntlet of your conference schedule. I think Missouri not only wins, but they cover, and I can see this being a 10-point to 2-touchdown win for them, especially because it's at home.
I'm also going to take Missouri. Kansas, I don't know, last year was kind of a little bit of an off year for them, especially 2 years ago with them having a good year. I think Missouri is, with them being unranked, I think it helps them a lot because now they have something to prove that Brady Cook just wasn't a one-off miracle for a couple of years. Josh also took Missouri. And next we have a tiebreaker, but we'll get to that at the end. So we're going to jump to the NFL. The first game, probably the worst game outside of the Cardinals and the Saints this week. The Dolphins are traveling to Indianapolis, and the Colts somehow are favored by 1.5 points.
I really want to take the Colts, but I don't see it. Although Mike McDaniel is kind of on the hot seat in Miami, I'm going to take the Dolphins.
Is this the first team to 10 wins?
Probably.
First to 3.
First to 3.
It might be 2-0. Somebody's going to get a safety. I told you guys before the show started, this is quite literally the only game I had any difficulty picking because this is picking from bad or worse. Mm-hmm. I have literally less than zero faith in the Colts. Every time I pick the Colts, they come up and bite me. But, man, I think the offseason for the Dolphins has been even worse than the Colts. Mm-hmm. Tyreek Hill doesn't want to be there. Now, it scares me because he is still such a dynamic playmaker. Tua can be outstanding, and Tua can be on the sideline within 3 plays. If they don't do it this week, you can write this down, mark it down. This will be the last time I ever pick the Colts. I'm going to take the Colts for no reason other than I know. Holy crap.
In Daniel Jones we trust.
That's right. Danny Dimes is going to be the savior.
I'm going to take the Colts. I think this is going to be the year, first in 12 years. The last time they won an opening game was 2013. Josh took the Dolphins, which I expected. Now, hear me out. We have 8 minutes. I'm just going to say this. What if some off chance and some alternate reality at the end of January, I'm not saying they make the Super Bowl, what if some off chance the Colts win 12 games?
Good night.
Wow.
I'm just saying, what if and they make the playoffs and they get a good seed. What if? What do we think? And it's not by Daniel Jones. Let's say it's by Anthony.
I don't see it.
I don't see it at all, but is there a possibility?
No.
I don't think so.
If Daniel Jones is the quarterback all year, there is that possibility. If Anthony Richardson has to play meaningful games, there is no chance. There is we've been through it the last couple of weeks going through I sent you guys that TikTok of just how statistically bad Anthony Richardson has been. He is statistically worse than Jamarcus Russell, who's considered to be the biggest bust in the history of the NFL. He is statistically worse than him. There is a less than 0% chance that could happen if Anthony Richardson has to play meaningful minutes. If it would happen with Daniel Jones at quarterback, I will tell you exactly what happens. Anthony Richardson is traded or cut. Mm-hmm. Daniel Jones is signed to maybe another one-year contract. They draft a quarterback and sit them for a year, and then that quarterback takes over for Daniel Jones after next season.
What if so Daniel Jones had one good year with the Giants, and it was a playoff run. Yeah. What if that's the year with the Colts?
That's exactly what happens. That they sign him. Maybe it's a 1-1 or a 2, whatever it is. They'll draft a quarter. I shouldn't say that. What they should do is re-sign Daniel Jones for another year, get rid of Anthony Richardson, try to get something for him, draft a quarterback, do the smart thing and let that quarterback set for a year, kind of like what the Vikings did with Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. Sam Darnold was that stopgap. McCarthy had to sit because he was injured, but he was going to anyway. Mm-hmm. Now he becomes the starter this year. Expectations are high in Minnesota. The same thing can happen for Indy. So, as we all know, though, what should happen and what does happen with the Colts are normally on two opposing ends of the stick.
Yeah, when we went through the Colts' schedule and whether they would win and lose each game, I was the only one that had it as a loss. But for the season, Jason had them finishing 7-9. Josh had them at 7-9. Ryan had them at 6-11, and I had them at 3-14. So 3 out of the 4 of us think the Colts are going to win tomorrow on that part of it.
Okay.
Our next game, this is either going to be just like Texas and Ohio State, or this is going to be a blowout. The Bengals are traveling to Cleveland, and they are favored by 5.5 points.
I don't think there is any – with Joe Burrow under center, there is a 0% chance that this can resemble Texas and Ohio State. The question is going to be can Cincinnati get a stop?
Exactly.
Because I don't think that Cleveland's offense is going to be incredibly dynamic and things. Joe Flacco's not going to get you beat, but is he going to win? I just think the Bengals outscore the Browns, and they not only win, but they cover, and Joe Burrow begins his march to another MVP-level season. And maybe, just maybe, this is the Bengals' year to not start 0-2 and behind the 8 ball like they have the last, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Tom?
I'm sorry. Which one are we picking?
Bengals.
We all had them as winning. I'm going to take the Bengals outright.
I also
but again, last 6 seasons, they're 1-11 in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. That is wild.
I'll tell you what, if they lose to the Browns, the Bengals are going to go like 4-13 this year.
I wouldn't go that far because we were talking about it off air. The Browns' defensive line might be the best defensive line in all of football. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, that's not covering Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and things, but that's getting pressure on Burrow. And you know what do they say the greatest ability is? Availability. If he's getting constantly pressured and hit time and time again, we know that Joe Burrow has a history of injuries. I'm not saying he's fragile because he played all 17 games last year, and look what happened for him statistically. The Bengals were in every single game scoring into 30s. They just couldn't stop a nosebleed. It won't surprise me if this game ends up being close because the Bengals can't stop anybody, and I do think defensively the Browns are good enough to keep it close, but I have so much faith in Joe Burrow and his ability to score points that I feel confident in my pick of the Bengals.
All right. Our final game for the NFL, the Vikings are traveling to the Bears, and they are favored by 1.5 points.
Well, Ryan's going to have to take the Bears because when we went through their schedule, Ryan had the Bears winning by 14 or more.
It's going to be a big one.
So I'm going with the Vikings. I had the Bears losing, so I'm going with the Vikings.
I had the Bears winning outright, and I still feel that way because J.J. McCarthy having to go on the road to start his first NFL game. Year 2 of Justin Fields. It's the second week in a row I've done that. Holy cow. We're going back in time. Year 2 of Caleb Williams with their new coach. I see this as the Bears getting the season off on the right foot, and I think they end up winning.
All right. Our final game and our tiebreaker. Number 15 Michigan is traveling to Norman, Oklahoma to take on number 18 Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is favored by 4.
Brent Venables has better win some games like this year, or he's going to be out of there. I'm going to, first of all, I'm never going to pick Michigan, so put me down for Oklahoma.
And the over-under is 43.5.
I'm going to go over. I'll say 51.
Jason?
This was the second toughest game for me to pick next to the Colts game, simply because I have less than zero faith in either of these teams. I still think that Michigan is trying to figure things out. They've got the flashy new freshman quarterback, but he's a freshman. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma is just fighting for their lives. Brent Venables has got to, he better get things figured out. If there's any hotter seat in the country than Kalen DeBoer, it's Brent Venables in Norman, Oklahoma. I think going on the road, freshman quarterback, is just too much to overcome for Michigan. I still don't think Oklahoma is great, but I'm going to take Oklahoma 24-14, so 38.
All right. Josh took Michigan, and he got 41. I'm going to take Michigan just based on the fact that I
Don't
can't
go over to the dark side.
I can't put faith in Oklahoma. It's just the last couple of years with Oklahoma have been so up and down. This is Bryce Underwood's first true test at all. I mean, last year he was playing high school football.
When is this game being played? Is it an afternoon or is it night?
It's night. It's the
7:30
ABC.
game.
Okay.
Yeah.
It screams a low scoring game, but I'm gonna go with the over. I'm gonna go with 50, just because I feel this might turn into a shootout in the third quarter. First and second, slow. Third, it's gonna turn into like Baker Mayfield's on the field for Oklahoma again. Fourth quarter, it's going to be a running game all the way. But I'm going to go with Michigan.
We turned into a weather show early in the first hour, and this might be weather related. Why is it? Is it something atmospheric or something? Why is it that the environments always seem louder and even more hostile when the game's played at night instead of during the day?
Because they've had so long to drink.
Yeah.
They've had longer to tailgate.
But is there something that happens in the atmosphere that, does the air get heavier and so the sounds, or does it get lighter and the sound it just seems to be amplified and ramped. Like the intensity just always seems to be higher at night games, and so that's why I think that Michigan and Bryce Underwood especially struggle tonight because it's being played at night. And I think that will, again, I don't think Oklahoma's great, but I also remind me his name, your favorite coach in college football at Michigan.
Oh, Sharon Moore.
I'm not convinced that Sharon Moore is the answer either for Michigan, and I don't know that he can handle, although, I mean, he handled the pressure at Ohio State last year. Yep. But I tried not to say that very loud for Tom and all of our other Ohio State fans.
2 years.
Because
Harbaugh was suspended.
No. That's right. But I just think that I think Oklahoma gets it done. I've got no faith in them, but I've got no faith in either team either. So, all right, Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Byride Auto. For Josh Lee, Ryan Higginbotham, and Tom Fleming, this is Jason Simpson. We'll see y'all next week.